One, two, three. What was my day? The Mom and Dad Talks for our favorite group of people. Our mom and dad. We're giving them a slight big break today. And today we have Carlin Alfred. Hi, Carlin. How you doing, CJ?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Well, today we're going to talk about John Morant. This is his second time with a gun video. I guess we're showing on social media, and so he's suspended again by the Grizzlies for toting a gun. But I think what it is, and JJ Redick was very interesting in how he proposed, and people jumped on JJ, but JJ made a great point. He didn't commit a crime. So why are people upset? You got people when you go to, I've been threatened with guns and I haven't done anything wrong. They pull up their gun holster just because I'm a black man at places. Like, dude, I don't plan on robbing you. Why are you doing that to me? And they don't lose their jobs over it. So, Carlin, before we begin, because I have my thoughts on it, what is your perspective on this John Morant issue?
It's actually more complicated than I thought it would be. I thought when the first time around, he flashed a gun. He was clearly in a club or night establishment. Some people even say it was a strip club. You know what I mean? But he was like in a VIP room. It wasn't like he was out in public. You know what I mean? And he went IG live. So a couple of issues. One, we just have to accept the fact that this generation, his generation, lives their life online. So good, bad, or ugly, they're gonna air. They're gonna show everything they're doing, from what they're eating to what every moment what they're thinking. Whether it's a moment of good judgment or bad judgment, they're gonna put it all online. So that's the first thing we just have to accept. It ain't just him.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I mean, my 15-year-old son, I caught him taking pictures of me while I'm driving. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're doing Google Moments." So I have to show where I am every moment. And right now I'm riding with my dad. I'm like, you don't have to show that. But they feel obligated to live their lives online. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that we can do anything about that. Because the answer to this would be stop going live. If he had never gone live, he never would have been suspended. Because you're right. He didn't break any laws. He's not even suspected of breaking a law.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even under investigation by the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
He's under investigation by the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But for what? Right? Okay. The second piece is what I call the self-righteous piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to go on and put it out there. There's a large group of people who go, look at all the violence in Chicago. What about Chicago? What about the gun violence in Chicago? And they are just waiting and licking their chops for see, he's a violent thug. Right? Because he's got his shirt off and he's got braids and he's listening to rap music and he's waving a gun. Okay. But that's not the reason why I'm worried. Right? All that self-righteousness. Because we have a governor who takes pictures with AR-15s and put an AR-15 in the hands of his little daughters and sons and saying, I've got my Second Amendment right. Those people aren't up in arms defending John Morant right now, because he hasn't broken the law.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even under investigation. Yeah, he's being suspended from his work and his job. Those Second Amendment people should be standing on their chairs, screaming at the top of their lungs that this is wrong, because he has a right to own his own gun, and we don't know the scenario. He could have been somebody could have been threatening him, and somebody, he has a bunch of money, and people could be after him. We don't hear any of those people saying that.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking the other path. Oh, look at this thug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the second piece. The third piece is, despite the racial undertones of those who think that he should be thrown into jail, and he hadn't done anything wrong per se, I still think that he's out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the same reason that you do, Mr. Conservative Patriot, whoever you are, who thought it was okay for Enrique Tarrio from the Proud Boys to have a loaded weapon on January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave that alone. You thought that was okay, but here's a man in a private, place, in the car of his boy, and he's waving a gun, and you think that's wrong, right? Okay, hypocrites. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. The problem that I have with John Morant is I know what he's doing. he's trying to keep it real in the midst of his ascent. In other words, he's got a maximum contract. What is it, 140 mil, 170
Mm-hmm.
mil,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. He's in generational wealth now.
Yeah.
But less than 4 years ago, he was straight up in the hood.
Yeah.
And his boys are going, "You've changed.
Mm-hmm.
You're not about that life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're not real.
Mm-hmm.
You with the white folks now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?" So he's trying to show I still have some gangster in
Mm-hmm.
me. And he's telling the streets, test my gangsters. And guess what? They're going to.
Yeah.
And when they do, he's going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. There's only one outcome to this.
Yeah.
And I take that back. It's one or it's two. The other one could be the feds could come investigate you if there's any other paraphernalia involved.
Mm-hmm.
Drugs, because his money is legit.
Yeah.
They don't question why he's rich.
Right.
But like Michael Vick did, he could be involved in some stuff on the side.
Right.
You're just waving a red flag for the feds to come and look at you.
Mm-hmm.
If they find anything, you're Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Mm-hmm.
Tekashi 6ix9ine, Daniel Hernandez. You know what I mean? Put on this persona that he was a blood,
Mm-hmm.
the Christian Bloods.
Mm-hmm.
And when the streets finally tested his gangster, all of a sudden he became Daniel Hernandez in court.
Yeah.
He wasn't Tekashi 6ix9ine anymore.
Right.
He's like, I don't want to die
Mm-hmm.
because they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: when you're involved in street stuff like that, the police will not protect you.
Right.
They're okay with you being killed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you say I'm out here, I'm about that life, roll up with me, I'm gangster like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that has been punked by the streets has either turned around and said, "Hey, I'm really not like that."
Mm-hmm.
Like the rapper T.I. Remember the feds came and got him after the Source Awards. He had these Uzis on him and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and he thought it was cool. But then all of a sudden the feds came and he's like, "No, that's not my real name." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The feds have a way of punking you.
Yes.
And
the feds in the street have a way of punking you out and saying, "We're going to."
They're almost one and the same. They're almost one and the same. So you can keep it real all you want to, but the streets are either going to test you and that'll end up dead, or the feds are going to test you and you'll end up in maximum security prison. Either way is not something that a man with 170 mil coming his way. More than that, when you consider endorsements
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, when you have all of that coming your way, why is it so important for you to maintain street credibility with guys you don't ever even have to see again in your life?
Yeah. And let's just be realistic, folks. This is a safety issue. Now, if the NBA is looking after his safety, I get it. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint, I like how you said it, because at the end of the day, no one asked for those people. When I saw in Michigan, our home state, carrying guns, threatening the police, I dare you do something with our governor there. They didn't lose their jobs. They didn't lose their
right.
And they weren't even carrying hoods. They were out there in the open where you know where they worked at. You know who employed them. And so I don't think he should lose his job for that. But if it's a safety reason, first of all, the NBA doesn't want to promote that kind of lifestyle. I get it. You know what I'm saying? They're like, hey, look,
right.
Ja, why do that to yourself and to the league? Because that's the thing the league's trying to get away from. We're trying to get you out of that and then change the community versus let the community be what you think it is. Because let's just be realistic. I tell people all the time, tell me and please, folks, if you know a black manufacturer who makes weapons in the United States, let me know. I believe there's zero last I checked. So we're not a violent people. What happens is violence is pressed upon us to be violent, and we're trained to be violent, and we're just carrying out what people think we ought to be because someone says this is what you should be. At the end of the day, if black folk rose up and whatever, try to create a war, it won't last long. Trust me. They'll run out of bullets. They'll run out of weaponry, right? It's just not going to it's going to be squashed in a couple of days, folks. So this whole fear mongering of a black planet and stuff is just not real. It doesn't make sense. The data doesn't even prove it.
So, but there is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is a very real fear. And we've talked about this in other things with other topics on my Mom and Dad Talk. This whole great replacement theory, I've got to have my guns for this impending war. I got to have my guns because the border is going to be overrun by immigrants who are here to do nothing but rape, kill, and pillage. I got to have because Black Lives Matter proved they're going to march in the streets and they're going to come take our homes. It's the boogeyman story that they did. What the real issue here is if everyone was armed, everyone was armed the way that they use the Second Amendment now to justify everyone being armed, they would feel less safe than they do today. If they really believe that my rights as an American, I live in a neighborhood where we're the only black family. Okay, I have guns. I'm a responsible gun owner. Okay, all of my neighbors have guns. I guarantee you, if they knew I had guns, they would be afraid.
Yeah,
because they view me and my people as the aggressors. Right? They don't view themselves as the aggressors.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. The main reason, ain't the only reason, but the number one reason I have guns is because of them. There's more of them than there are me. And so we're getting into kind of a slippery slope, but I want to validate what you said, Todd. This is a safety issue, and it's also an image issue. The NBA is not a public entity.
Right.
They can run their business any way that they want to. And if they don't want to have promote that their players are walking around in public places flashing guns for whatever reason, even if it's self-protection, that's what they've chosen not to do. So I want everybody to understand, John Morant getting suspended by the NBA isn't because they have some sort of righteous platform on for or against guns. It is because their advertisers don't want any part of that, and they're guarding their money, which I don't have a problem with, right? But Ja's got to go by the rules. The multi-layered problem here is that Ja's not here doing what he's doing in violation of that because he's trying to thumb his nose at the NBA. Ja's trying to maintain his street credibility at a time when he should be letting it go.
And folks, that's the whole thing about it. And we talked about gun violence and everything like that a lot here on Mom and Dad Talks, and everybody knows my stance on it. I'm a peaceful person, right? And the Second Amendment, for those people that have, that's why it's Second Amendment. It's your choice, right? My whole choice is a little bit different, but that's why we live in America, folks. And like I said, the fear that people have is that. I'm seeing people post up there. Why is he doing that? But the undertones are not about a safety issue. It's not about an image issue. I see more thuggery being thrown into the mix that bothers me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, these black guys shouldn't be having guns. Well, we have a right in the United States for everybody as a citizen to have guns. It's your choice to have guns or not, right? But the real issue here is more layered, right? And I think that's the part that's missing is the layered pieces that we're talking about.
And that people don't, they live their life at 140 characters. So they don't want to go into the layers. So it's either he's a thug or it's, he's got these rights. And I want to say this now because I don't think I've said this on your show. I've said it on other shows. We as America, we have completely perverted the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment was never written for me to be able to carry around a Draco or an AR-15 in the car. The Second Amendment was written, if you understand context, when it was written, right? It was written after the Revolutionary War. Who it was written by? It was written by the colonists. What it was written for? It was written for protection against the Redcoats.
Right.
Because they did not know if the Redcoats were coming back. There was no social media, no news. They had no tips to know if the Redcoats were coming back. And the colonists had no army. They had no army. They had no police. There was written, it said, look at the language. The language says, for a well-formed militia. They didn't have a militia. The militia was volunteers. It wasn't, and let's be clear, it wasn't written for you and me.
Right.
Every single one of the men that was on there was a slave owner.
Right.
So it was written for them. They never wrote it thinking in the future that black and brown bodies would be protected under the United States Constitution
Constitution.
to have a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
It was written for colonists and as a warning to stay ready and stay vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
And it says against a tyrannical government.
Right.
The tyrannical government they were talking about was the British.
Right.
Now the British are gone. We have Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. We have police.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're really understanding that the truth is, we really don't have a right anymore to bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're using, what they want to use it for is to protect my home. It was never written. It was to protect your homeland. Mm-hmm. Your home is protected by the police. Mm-hmm. Your home is protected by. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's completely out of context, and we're arguing these things in Congress and all this other stuff, and it's completely been perverted. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not saying that we should not bear arms or mm-hmm. have the right mm-hmm. to bear arms, but what I'm saying is under the Constitution, if somebody were to challenge it, a Supreme Court would have to listen because it is not. It doesn't guarantee any of the things that you want to use it for today.
And the intent, what you're talking about, the intent of the Constitution, right? Which was a great debate on that, and like I said, it's always this mixture, unfortunately, when it comes to us. It's not straightforward. Like I said, we all saw what happened in Michigan with our governor, guys taunting the police with assault rifles. You know what I'm saying? And
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
They ran to his aid. Oh, he had to defend himself because first of all, nobody asked him to go there.
Right.
Nobody asked him. He was asked to leave by the place that he thought he was defending. Mm-hmm. He had one illegally carried it over state lines.
Yeah.
Underage, his mom got it for him, mm-hmm. and yet they were defending his right. And here, John Morant waving it to some rap music in a private car. I'm just saying, be consistent.
Yeah. And that's the real point. We know your real intent by the way you treat. There's no consistency. And that's the sad part about it is I would like it if if that was your stance on stuff, you would defend anybody on that stance. But it's picking and choosing that, you brought racism, how you treated the situation. Not that the situation was there. If you treated the situation the same way, it wouldn't be called race. It just, hey, that's your stance. I respect that. But the way you treated this, you're showing it's racism, and people.
And we'll get accused on this what we're doing right now. We'll get accused of playing the race card when you played the race card when you didn't rush to Jaws' defense like you did for Kyle Rittenhouse.
And folks, that's just really what it comes down to. If you're going to have a stance, be consistent all across the board, black, white, no matter what color it is. I won't have a problem with you. But when I see you treated because of color, race comes into it then. It was, and before we leave here real quick, there was a thing where I remember Latrell Sprewell choked his coach. Nobody saw the film, no saw anything, and yet people want him out of the NBA. Now, Kevin Green, everybody saw him on TV where his coach made a real boneheaded play, went and grabbed his neck and pushed him back, and nobody said to get out of the league Kevin Green. Folks, this is what you have to understand what racism is all about, is if it's the same situation and different thought process or different feelings about it because of color, that's racism, folks. I just want to point that out.
Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I know that wasn't the show you called me on. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, 2 days later, did the exact same thing. But you imagine, she's a thug and she's classless or whatever, but Caitlin's just an intense competitor when they both did the same move. Be consistent. I'm okay if you're mad at both for pulling the move and you say it's both classless. I'm okay if you say it's all good because trash talk is a part of the game. Mm-hmm. What I'm not okay with is the white girl gets a pass, the black girl gets excoriated. I'm not cool with that.
And folks, that's all we're pointing out. So hopefully for you who saw it, I'm sure I'll get a lot of texts and stuff like that on it. But I just want to point out the fact that this will help you identify what racism is all about. If nothing else, this is what it has. And I hope that praying for Ja that, he gets away from that life. Call us up, Carlin. You're right there in Nashville, Tennessee. I know you know some NBA people over there. You ran for mayor of Nashville. Ja, call Carlin up. He can help guide you. Helps a lot of people there. We're not trying to take over anything. We're supporting you. We understand what's happening. We're just trying to help you, dude. You don't have to do this. You can actually do better. That $170 million could do more for your family and the community if you use it right. this whole thing of killing one another, it's a waste of money, waste of time, waste of great minds. Every death that occurs that's cut short, we're missing an opportunity of greatness in this earth. So, for whatever side you on, Carl and I have different sides of the gun thing, but that's good because that's okay, and I still love him. He's my cousin. Why? Because love extends past your differences. So love somebody today. Till next time, we'll see you on Mom and Dad Talks.